right, well, we need some variety, so I'll pick one of the Lord of the Rings. Ooh, which one would I do? All right, so growing up, The Two Towers was my favorite. Probably because I was in love with Orlando Bloom. Okay, so The Return of the King. Here we go. Yeah, it's got to be Vertigo. I became obsessed with Hitchcock in middle school. It feels like a fever dream. It's one of those movies you're like, what is going on? And the colors are so purposeful. So you've got Fargo. I freaking love Fargo. I love the dry humor and just, oh, don't you know? My name is Alyssa Botelho. I'm a writer, director, and producer, and you're watching the Film Stock Podcast. And then it's an intellectual discussion, like, what is the difference between a romance and a chick flick?
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, there is you feel it. I feel like it's one of those things that you feel.
Yeah.
And then when you actually start to think about it, you're like, there is a distinction.
There is. What's like the quintessential chick flick?
What is the quintessential chick flick? I don't know why. I know I just said it, but 10 Things I Hate About You comes to mind.
Yeah.
But like, why?
I don't know.
Heath?
Maybe.
Is
it like it's geared towards teen girls? Is that like
possibly?
When that's
but
the
I'm also thinking about what is
it?
2 Weeks Notice with Hugh Grant and Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, I haven't seen many movies.
Well, actually, that's
I can get the feel when you say Hugh Grant and Sandra Bullock. Like, okay, yeah.
Well, no, actually, I think that's a good place to start because you actually make me feel better when you say that, you're a filmmaker, obviously, and you say that you haven't seen that many movies.
Nope.
I feel like an asshole sometimes. Like, I honestly,
really?
like, people will be like, oh, this movie, and like people will agree, like, that's something we all should have seen.
And you're like,
I'm just kind of faking it.
You're like, yeah, I think I've seen 3 scenes,
Yeah, I think I saw a clip on YouTube.
I saw a clip on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my problem.
So I like to ask this.
Yeah.
Hero's Journey. What was like the movie where it was like you saw it and you're like, I'm going to be a filmmaker?
Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Yes.
The first one?
Yes.
Really? What about it?
Oh man, it's just like there's like literally magic in the movie. It's about magic,
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. There's something to it. And then when you go into the behind the scenes and you learn how it was made, it's like, okay, this is like belongs in the Louvre. It's like,
it's true.
It's not just a movie. It's like this work of art.
Well, we were having this conversation the other, I forget who were you talking to. It might not have even been on the podcast, but we were like looking at the behind the scenes and the ingenuity that they came up with, like just the forced perspective and like that you know the shot I'm talking about where it's like Gandalf and it might have been Bilbo and like the table is shifting to create that illusion in camera.
Yeah.
The craftsmanship was unreal.
It's unreal. It's literally insane. It's like every little part of it, even what was it? The people who are making the chainmail for the costumes, their fingerprints got worn off because of how much they were working at it. It's like, it's crazy.
It was pretty insane.
Yeah.
Speaking of insane, you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm bad at names for titles, but from Dusk They Shall Return.
So, you know what? I don't blame you because nobody can remember it.
What is it? There's dust in there, and it returns.
There's some dust, and there's returning to Dusk I'll Return.
To Dusk I'll Return.
Yes.
Craftsmanship.
Oh, thank you.
Seriously. And we were I was joking with you about this on the phone when we talked prior to the interview. I was like, the detail, like the period detail, it's so unreal. Where'd you guys film that?
We filmed it at the Uptuxet Trading Post in Bourne. So it's right off the Bourne Canal.
Really?
Yeah, and we filmed it. It was March of 2021.
Okay.
And it was so cold. And that building doesn't have heat because it's
yeah. Ancient.
Yeah.
Colonial.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so cold.
How'd you guys find that? Is that like a historical... Is it a museum or something? Or
yeah, so it's a museum. It's owned by the Bourne Historical Society, and they're really awesome. Let us film there.
Yeah.
And it, I think I had seen, it was a different film festival, and I had seen a different film. what was it called? Like Sacrament or something like that. Paul Kandarian was in it. He's in everything.
Why do I know that name?
Oh my gosh, he's in like every New England project ever.
Kandarian.
Yeah, he's an older man, glasses, blue eyes. Anyways,
I would probably know him if I saw him.
Yeah. So I saw him in this film and I was like, ooh, where did they film this? It looks so cool. And so I reached out to the filmmakers and they connected me and then we ended up filming there.
That's awesome. How long did you end up filming there?
It was 2 days. It was 2 days.
Shoot.
Yeah.
All overnights?
No, we shot day for night.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that process, because I've only shot day for night once, and the end product looked like shit.
What?
Your
I'm
product
sure
did not look. Yeah, well, it did. Your product did not look like shit. I would. That's why I asked. I was like, okay. So how does the day for night process go with that?
Yeah, so
Because you've got that one big exterior. Was that also day for night?
Oh
like
my
her
gosh.
walking up?
So that's a funny story. Yeah, so there's the one shot that's really outside is the first shot. And we did film that over that 2-day, the weekend. But we just were fighting with the light and it wasn't working and it was way too dark and it didn't look right. So we actually did a pickup shoot a few weeks later with one of our friends. So the actress, she was from New York. And so we used one of our good friends who's the same height and same hair color. And so we just put, the costume on her and just followed her a few weeks later. And it was perfect. It was just me, Shawn, my DP, and our friend.
Was that handheld Steadicam?
That was Steadicam, I think, Shawn. So he's like,
Shawn, thumbs
you
up,
should know
thumbs down,
how we did
Steadicam.
this.
Yeah. It looked really good.
Yeah. It was, we were like, oh crap, we have to redo this. But yeah, other than that, we got lucky because the building itself, I think there was just like one window in that main space. So we just had to block out one of the one of the windows.
So it wasn't all that difficult doing
it wasn't
the day
too
for
bad.
Night,
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it really wasn't bad at all. And I hate doing night shoots too because everyone's like, oh, in this weird space. Yeah.
Yeah. You get into a weird headspace.
Yeah.
Get burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. Now, yeah, there's so many questions I have in regards to like the period details. I get the first thing that's coming to mind though is the fire. Was that like I know it seems stupid, but was that digital or did you have somebody on the fire the whole night? Like the consistency and the way that it's presented throughout the piece, it almost becomes like a character in and of itself, especially toward I don't know how much I'm allowed to say.
You can say whatever. It's on YouTube. It's out there.
Towards the climax where, they're confronting each other and he's realizing he's been poisoned. Yeah. Or maybe he doesn't realize, but he just, I don't know. Like, anyway, going back to the fire.
Yeah, it's definitely a character. Yeah. That's how I thought of it from the start, too. And even with the sound design, too, I remember working with our sound designer to really build it up, the sound of the fire, and then kind of tone it down. And it's its own character. So
was it practically?
Yeah, so we did it. We were so lucky to be able to really put a fire in there.
I feel like that's an insurance claim nightmare.
Yeah. So we were on university insurance too, which was fun. But yeah, so it was when we were directly facing the fire. It was real. And then anytime you're not directly looking at it, we faked it with lighting. Okay. And we had those little, I forget what they're called, but our gaffer, Jonathan Burnett, has those little square thingies. Shawn's like, you should know this. And they emulate the fire. Okay. And it was great.
Probably similar to that light, right? Yeah. Right on the door?
Yes, that little thing. That little thing. Yeah, exactly.
Those come in handy. So we worked on a project probably around last April, and we were shooting in a car, and it was all black, but we had like 3 of those. Yeah. And one of them we put kind of on the dashboard to emulate like the radio light. Oh, and then we put 2 of them in the back to emulate like car taillights, like the red car taillights.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
They're brilliant.
Yeah.
Come in
they
handy.
save you. Yeah, because there's no way we could keep a fire going. Even like from shot to shot, just the fire is going down and we're worried about continuity. And it's like, oh.
It's like a full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my producers who's not even really in film, but we went to high school together and did theater together. And she was a great video creator in high school. So I roped her into it. And that was her job, was just paying attention to the fire. And yeah.
Theater?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Act, direct, right?
Yep. Acting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved theater.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. Okay, so where did the inspiration for this movie come from?
Yeah, for To Dust?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, the high school theater.
Love it. Love when things come full circle.
I know, right? So when I was a freshman or a sophomore, young in high school, we did The Crucible, as most do.
Yep.
And it was just so awesome. We took a field trip to Salem beforehand to really get into character.
Of course.
And all that.
As one does.
As one does.
Method.
Yes. And it was so cool to see, you know, the real grave site where the women who were accused of being witches are laid to rest. And it was very powerful. And just being on stage, too, it was so cool. Just the air felt thicker and heavier. And it was just this different atmosphere. So I wanted to kind of recapture that. With this.
That's where the inspiration comes, that feeling that you had from theater and doing The Crucible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you definitely captured the atmosphere. That's for damn sure.
Thank you.
And so the actor, what was the main actor's name?
Yes. So Paulina Kanak, she's from New York City, and she plays Amity. And then David Protus. It plays the man.
Local, New York?
So he has a cool story because he did, he's a Broadway dancer for a while in New York. And then he got into acting. He had moved back home to Natick. And that's when we started working together. I think it was because of COVID. He moved to Natick. And now he lives in LA. And he does dance out there, ballet instructing, and then he also does film work, and he's so good.
He was very good in this project.
Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah. And then there's a third actor.
Yes. Yeah, Duncan Putney. He's local. And what was funny is at the time, he was our only SAG actor.
Okay.
And he literally has no lines.
Yeah.
It's like he's not even really doing too much in the film. But yeah, he just had a great look. And we wanted like certain eye movement because he's, you know, sick and dying and whatever.
I like the reveal of him in the project.
Yeah.
That was a really nice moment. And I like what the sound design does at that moment too.
Oh yeah, and it gets muffled as we go into the next room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. So I'm a huge Tarantino fan.
Yeah.
And basically, I always say that To Dust I'll Return is just ripping off the first scene of Inglourious Bastards.
As you said that, I was imagining instead of the camera going left to right, it just goes up to down. I was like,
exactly.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Opening scene to Inglourious Bastards, except set in, you know, Salem, Cologne. Was it supposed to be Salem specific?
Kind of loosely. Not Salem specific because there's no, you know, his specific lore that's mentioned there, but definitely New England. They say something about Dartmouth, which is, you know, at the time. So, yeah, Massachusetts area. It's
got witch vibes. The Witch. What is it?
I love
Eggers?
The Witch. Yes. Yeah. I love that movie.
Did that come up in conversation as you were getting into pre-production for it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think because he's so good at all of the details and being so specific and real and accurate and wanting to, you know, that's a guidepost, but I also like to take more creative liberty with things. You know, for example, the main character's corset is red, and that's not necessarily the color of it wouldn't be something that, you know, people would wear.
I wouldn't have picked up on that. That's a nice little detail.
It's little things like that, but I was like, oh, you know, it adds to her character, and just I pictured her in red, and just stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah, knowing when to loosen up on the historical accuracy so that creative decisions can take over.
And I would imagine your wardrobe designer had a field day with this, yeah?
Yeah. So funny. And so my best friend, Claudia, we did theater together. And she's really gotten into hair, makeup, and costuming. So I've always worked with her. And then for To Dust I'll Return, we, for the first time, reached out to the woman who did costuming for theater in high school. And she is I think she's in her 60s now. She's just like this awesome fireball of a woman. And she's so kooky and lovely and amazing. And she's just got this incredible knack for costume design. She never, went to school for it or anything like that. She worked.
Has she ever done anything film related before?
No.
So you tapped her in for her first film?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and she was amazing. She's so good. She's so good.
I mean, again, I'll keep saying it. The period details, the costumers seem to be.
They're amazing.
What was their names again?
Yeah, so Claudia Nagalia is my best friend, and then Deb Borges Roderick.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're such a good team.
Did they have those costumes available to them prior? Did they have to source them? Did they make them?
Yeah, so Deb, what's great about Deb is she can get some stuff from the high school, from Fairhaven High School. And then it was a combination of that and Circa in New Bedford.
What's Circa?
Circa is this wicked cool. So if you like thrifting,
I do.
You should definitely go to Circa.
Big thrifter.
They have incredible stuff from all these different time periods too.
Okay.
And so they have actually authentic stuff from that Salem witch trial time period.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really it's amazing. The big productions that have come to the South Coast, was it The Holdovers and Finest Kind? Those productions have gone to Circa too to source for their movies.
I was on Finest Kind.
Oh, cool!
My cousins were just making fun of me last night because I was wearing a sweatshirt and it's got a gigantic map of New Bedford and Fairhaven on the back of it. And they're like, "Oh, you brought your best New Bedford sweatshirt out."
Your best New Bedford sweatshirt.
And then I turned around and I was like, "Assholes, it says Finest Kind."
Oh, I love that. Okay, now I'm wondering who we might have. Did you work with the stunt team at all or meet the stunt team?
A little bit.
Okay.
So I was on the locations team for that.
Yes.
So, there was one specific scene that I was in charge of. It was when he's late to the boat and he jumps in his car and his girlfriend, Jenna Ortega's driving, and they have to go all down and then he jumps off the dike. The Hurricane Dike.
Yeah.
So I was on that, and I worked with the stunts team for that.
Awesome.
But if you ask me a name right now, I don't think that I would
I was
remember.
gonna say Adam Katz is a good friend of mine, and I think he was the driver or something like that.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
It's very possible. Were you associated with Finest Kind at all?
No. So what was I doing in my life at that point? I wasn't, but I remember, so my full-time job is out of the Fairhaven Town Hall.
Okay.
And so when you guys were filming at Rasputin's, the bar, that's a very short walk.
Yep.
So I would just walk down there and was, looking at the set and stuff. And then some people came out that I know, like PJ Ray Hall. Gabby, I forgot her name, but she's on the camera team. And I was like, hi, guys. Feeling left out, FOMO. I wish
but
I
also
could work
getting,
with you guys.
rubbing shoulders. It's kind of in the action.
Yeah.
It's interesting you brought it up because when I was watching, again, I'm bad with titles. I'm just going to say the Christmas short.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What's the name of that?
Santa's Bell.
Santa's Bell. When I was watching, I was like, this looks oddly familiar. I know this location. Was that filmed at Fairhaven?
Yes, that's the Fairhaven Town Hall.
Okay, I thought so. I had to go to a couple of meetings for permits and et cetera, et cetera.
Oh my gosh,
so
I might have filmed you because this sounds weird. So I might have filmed you.
I might have filmed you.
So I'm the tourism director for Fairhaven now. But for 8 years before that, I was on the cable access team.
Okay.
So we would film, select board meetings where, location managers are asking.
Yeah.
And I think I think
You wouldn't have
might
filmed
been
me.
one
You
of
would have
them.
filmed my coworker,
Okay.
my boss at the time, Ryan Cook. He was kind
Oh,
of kind of the
yeah.
spokesman for
Okay.
everything Finest Kind related. But I
Okay.
went to a few of the meetings in support in case they had any follow up questions.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we probably would have crossed paths there.
That's so funny.
So the town of Fairhaven, they let you film there. You
Yeah.
got some clout.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, got some clout.
Got some connections.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so the cable access team, they work out of the town hall.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so it was, pretty easy to just put something together really quick.
Hell of a location.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think, I should know when it was built. Either the late 1800s or early 1900s.
Okay.
Fairhaven Town Hall was built. And you got the stained glass and the
And
bell
the amazing
tower.
stairs.
Yeah,
The stairways in that
stairs.
place are awesome.
Yeah.
So how
it's
did
really
that come
pretty.
about? What was the inspiration for that project?
Yeah, so at Cable Access, it's a lot of filming government meetings, the Conservation Commission, the, Board of Public Works, all good, important stuff. But I just wanted to do more fun things. And my coworkers, I went to high school with them and we took media production together. So we've already got this chemistry when it comes to making creative stuff. And I think it was Christmas of 2020, maybe,
Okay.
when, COVID was still happening. And
Yep.
the annual holiday event that Fairhaven has was canceled. So we were like, oh, well, let's do something fun for, the kids who don't get to, have the holiday fun that we usually do. So we just came up with this short film that we would make a part of our larger online event thing.
Sure.
And it was just the idea of one of our coworkers is a magician. He's a real magician.
Is that the individual in the film?
That's the individual in the film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. His name is Todd Migliacci. And so we were like, oh, let's just make this short film where Santa comes to town hall and he's trying to chase him and he can't get him, but then he gets a gift from Santa.
Yeah.
Because he's got a great affect too. Todd's very youthful and the
He's
kids
very easy
love
to
him.
watch.
Oh my gosh, he's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a great comedic spirit.
Yeah.
So, it was just fun. It was just like a little thing we put together. And then we ended up entering it into this national program for cable access stations. And we got Best Children's Programming. And we got to go to Chicago to accept the award.
Oh, cool.
Which was really fun. Yeah.
Had you ever been to Chicago before then?
No.
How was it?
I love Chicago.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite city.
Okay.
It's very intelligently designed with their bike system and just the waterfront and so much culture. I love Chicago.
Hell yeah.
Have you been?
I have been to Chicago, but when I was a wee lad.
A wee lad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't remember it.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not big on cities.
Yeah.
I would take a big open empty field or
Yeah.
somewhere deep in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No,
But-
I feel the same way. But
Yeah?
for some reason, Chicago just stuck with me.
It did it for you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with any of these projects, have you done the festival circuit? Do you do festivals?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, a little bit. So it was to Dust. We did a little bit, very New England.
I would
'cause it's
imagine it
very
was
New
well
England story.
received.
Yeah, actually, this was cool. The best screening that we had was just something that Luke St. Germain in Salem, he had just put together. It was very small, and it was at their Arts Association building or something like that. And going to that screening changed everything for me. I met so many collaborators that I work with today that my last short film, Sweet Freedom, could not have happened without going to this small little screening. Yeah, it's so cool. It got me into that New England indie creator network.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I always love whenever. I mean, I love this with filmmakers in general, but lately the filmmakers that we've had on the podcast, I try my best to kind of go through their works from start to finish. And with your work, it's pretty cool. There's a very distinct progression.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
That I only got to see the trailer for Sweet Freedom. I didn't get to
Yeah.
actually see Sweet Freedom.
Yeah, I forgot to send you the screener link.
It's all good. It's all good. But by the time I got to the trailer, I was like, God damn. Like, it looks solid. Can you talk about that project? How did that all come about?
Yeah, Sweet Freedom was definitely just this crazy project, the craziest thing I've ever done. Because the one before that, if you don't count the cable access shorts in between and 48-hour projects, the big one before that was To Dusk I'll Return.
Yeah.
So Sweet Freedom came out of, I love New England so much.
Born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised.
Rhode Island, Mass?
Mass. Yeah, South Coast.
Okay.
Fairhaven.
Yep.
And so I was working in the industry for a little bit. I was in New Mexico for a few months. And even though it was just a few months, when I did come back, I was just like, oh, yes, New England. I love being back home. And I was just looking into different historical figures and my area because I wanted to do something historical. And, it was the usual people like Herman Melville with Moby Dick and, Henry Huddleston Rogers. Anyone who's from the Fairhaven area knows the big tycoon oil, Standard Oil. Anyways, it was like all the usual people. And then I came across this woman, Mary Polly Johnson, who is a real abolitionist in the 1800s, Afro-Indigenous woman. She was born on tribal land, the Pecasset Wampanoag tribe in the Fall River area. And she basically built her own confectionery shop from scratch. And there was nothing there, and then she built this place up to the point where the richest people in the city and the richest people all over the world were coming to her shop to have her cakes, candies, ice creams. And if you think about the 1800s, right? Like today, you can make a cake pretty easily.
Sure.
But back then, they were sourcing ingredients from all over the world and hand making this stuff. And you have to be strong to work with these ingredients. And anyways, I just thought it was so incredible what she was doing. And on top of being a business owner, she made her home into pretty much one of the most notable Underground Railroad stations in the country at the time. And her house is where Frederick Douglass found safety.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, we all know Frederick Douglass, I would hope.
Yeah.
But we don't really know her name or her story. So I just was immediately like, I have to find out more about this woman and just share her story and what she did.
And is this a short film or is it a feature or?
It's a short film. It's a long short film. It's about 28 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do I want to ask this? It's like, so what specifically did you focus the narrative on? Like, was there a specific event? Please.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was difficult because she has such a big story that I didn't know, what's the easiest, for a short film, the easiest thing to get into. And so I chose this real story of this time where actually the Douglases, Frederick and Anna, were leaving her house. And there was this other family that she was housing. And her name is Betsy Gibson. And she had 3 daughters with her. In the film, there's only 2. I'm just combining and condensing.
Sure.
But
creative liberties.
So Betsy Gibson, she and her girls came from Georgia, and they were slaves in Georgia. Now, their slave master, Patrick Gibson, sent them to the Johnson house in New Bedford. And he actually sent money along the way and food and all that. It's a very interesting situation. So he was supporting them, and he was, allowing them to live in the North, and everything was kind of, good, and it was a good setup. And then he died.
Okay.
And now it's this big question of, are they free or are they not free? And do they have to go back to the South? And it's just like, you know, what's their status of freedom?
Well, I was going to ask you that. I mean, it sounds like the subtext is I'm setting you free.
Yeah, right. That was the subtext is, you know, you're free, but legally
he never signed anything.
He never did. And then, you know, it's the question of what's in his will, what's actually written in his will. Because at the same time, so after he died, he left all of his business assets to his associate, Edward Molyneux.
Okay.
And this guy was sending letters to the Johnsons, like letter after letter after letter, basically more and more antagonistic, like you need to send them back here. And he was promising, I'm going to send them to Jamaica where they'll be truly free, because Jamaica was free of slavery at that point. So it's this dialogue-driven drama, and it's, you know, it's very, you know, it's supposed to be educational, like all these things that we don't really know about. Yeah, it's supposed to be fun too.
That I like that way to get into it dramatically. That's an like I'm sitting here being like, okay, how does this wrap up?
Yeah.
Like there's almost a part of me that's like, okay, well, do they go down to the South? Like, do they request to see the will? Like, how do we clear this whole thing up?
Right, and it gets very interesting too because it opens up the layers of like what white people could do at the time and what black people could do at the time, because they could not get their hands on his will, essentially, because they were black, the Johnsons. So they had to employ friends of theirs, white friends of theirs, to try to get the will. It's very, like, you know, layered and, yeah.
How do you cover all of that and, you know, a half hour short?
I know.
That feels like...
That was the big task.
And did you write it yourself? Did you have a writing partner? Did you have people you were bouncing ideas off of?
Yeah, so I did write it, but my big champion for the project is this woman, Jan De Silva, and she is a historian and a culture resource specialist, incredible woman, and so she works in New Bedford, and she has so much access to all of the information. She did a lot of work with the New Bedford Historical Society, and I worked with them too on the research and all the real stories and everything like that. Actually, the president of the New Bedford Historical Society is a descendant of Betsy Gibson.
Oh, cool.
And then I also got in contact with Polly Johnson's descendants in the Pecasset Wampanoag tribe. So I got more information there. And so it was a lot of piecing together information from different people and working with them on the script.
How long did all this take you?
Yeah, it was... So I first found out about Polly Johnson, I think it was August of 2022. And then I had gotten the first grant for the project in February. Okay. And I was like, okay, so this is happening and I have to really write it now. Yeah. And so writing took place pretty much March to June, I think. Yeah.
Decent amount of time.
Yeah.
Wow.
A few months.
Wait, so go back on that. You got funding for this.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the grant? Can you tell us a little bit more about that process?
Yeah. So I had never applied for a grant before this project. Okay. And when I had learned of her story, I was like, oh, this is the perfect thing because it's very educational and it's Black history, it's Indigenous history, women's history. It seems like the kind of thing that grant makers would want to support and get behind too. So I applied for one grant. I got rejected. Okay. I was like, okay, well, on to the next. And then the next grant I applied for was New Bedford Creative's Art is Everywhere grant. And New Bedford Creative is an organization of the New Bedford Economic Development Council. Okay. And so all of that to say that there is money out there in places that you would never really know. You look for it and then you start seeing all the opportunities. And they had granted us $10,000. Wow. Yeah, and I was like, okay.
It's not a small chunk of change.
Yeah, yeah.
And was that everything that you needed for funding the whole project? Did you raise funds elsewhere? Yeah.
Yeah, I wish.
This is something I always like to ask the filmmakers if they're, willing to go down this rabbit hole. But I think it's
Oh, yeah.
I think it's so important to have a conversation about, where funding comes from for these projects. So,
Yes.
okay, it sounds like a fraction of what you needed. How
Yeah.
did you raise the rest of the money, or were there other grants involved? But tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, and I agree too, because I think, it can be one of those mysterious things of how a film gets made is the money part of it.
So mysterious.
And it's like, it shouldn't be. We need to be talking about it more so that more projects can be made.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was. So when I had first approached them, I think I had asked for 20,000.
The grant. Yep.
And they gave 10. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll figure it out. I'll look for more grants. And as the project was developing, I was like, oh, this is even more than a $20,000 project.
Mm-hmm.
And as my best producer friend says, Carly Byers, who is on the project, the budget is a living, breathing document. And
True words right there.
I know. So it was growing and it was growing. And essentially, I was finding different local cultural council grants, and then I applied for another round of funding with New Bedford Creative, and they gave us another $10,000.
Oh, cool.
And then fundraising on Indiegogo too.
How was your experience with that?
It was good.
What did you ask for, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I forgot what. I think the goal was 10,000 on Indiegogo, and we ended up getting close to 14.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Success.
Which was crazy.
Success.
Yeah. It was nuts. So many people. I was just blown away because that was one of my big fears graduating college was, okay, I'm coming from this place where you can get everybody to work for free and you can just raise a little bit of money, a couple thousand, and that'll cover you. But now when you go into the real world, it's like people are doing this as, their livelihood, and you have to pay. And of course you want to pay and support all these artists coming together to make this thing. And just the costs start really racking up. And so the final budget for Sweet Freedom is about $55,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And it's crazy because if you were to tell me at the start of this project that I was going to be making a $55,000 project, I would have been like, oh no, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, it just kept rolling with it.
Well, you got to, especially if you believe in the story, which it sounds like you do, and you did the homework to, get the thing where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So, geez, are you done with the editing? Is it all wrapped up?
Yes, thank God.
Yeah. How long did the editing process take?
That was a long time. So we had shot last November, so November of 2023, for 5 days. And after that, we all took a break and just a big mental reset. And so my editor, one of my closest friends and someone that I actually work with in cable access for Fairhaven, his name is Nick Doyle. He started editing in January of 2024.
Okay.
And it was just him solo for a bit, just getting it all together. And then myself and my DP, Shawn Campbell, who's also my fiance, we sat with Nick, I think it was from like April to July. So a few months weekly. Near the end, we were, doing a few visits per week, and it was just this grind. And then once it was picture locked, we got it over to our colorist, Jack Geronimo, VFX.
You know Jack?
Yeah.
I love Jack. Shout out to Jack.
Shout out Jack. Jack's the best.
Jack's the man.
Oh my gosh. He's so good. And he basically became our post-production super too, and he's conforming things, and he's working with people. I freaking love Jack.
He's so good.
He's so good.
I think Jack did the color on the last 3 projects I was a part of.
That's awesome.
One which I directed, one my producer directed, and one with Steve, who he directed that. So
was that
Writer's Block?
I love Writer's Block.
It's a fucking whirlwind, isn't it?
Is.
Like in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it just, from the moment you start watching, it just grabs you, and you're like, what is this? God damn.
I know.
It's so good.
And it's so cathartic too. It's like, yeah, this is how it feels.
Well, that was a large part of why he did it, because he was working like a bunch of corporate jobs, and he's like, no, I know there's like something creative I have to say. And he just felt like he was kind of the writer, being like, I'm doing this, I'm torturing myself for other people. So like getting to kind of go on that experience with him was wild. But anyway,
I love it.
Steve, Jack, back to the color. So you were going through color.
Yeah, we're doing color, sound design with Ben LeBeau.
Another
Ben is amazing.
Yeah. So you've got a good team on your post-production here.
Oh my gosh, it's like, the Avengers.
Yeah, seriously.
It's so good. And then I started talking with him early on, but it was like one of the last things to kind of come through his music. Kevin Robles.
Okay.
He is so amazing.
Had you worked with Kevin before?
No.
How'd you guys get linked up?
So that was my producer, Carly Byers, had worked with Kevin, and Victor Herman. I don't know if you know Victor.
Nope.
But
the way I reacted when you said Jack and Ben, you'll know if I know somebody, because I'll be like,
Them! I love it. Yeah. So, I had just gotten connected through, Carly and Victor. And so he lives in LA. He went to school here. I forgot where he went to school, but yeah, he's so amazing. And something that we clicked right away, we started talking about Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
And he's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and just a big fan of Howard Shore, the composer. And he actually even got to talk with him over the phone one-on-one.
With Howard?
With Howard Shore.
With Mr. Shore?
Yes, with Mr. Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What brought that about? What did they talk about? Probably not music, I would imagine.
Not music, no.
Everything else.
Everything else. He said he had just graduated college, and it was in that rut. It was also kind of COVID time, but he was in that rut that most people get into out of college. Like, oh, what am I doing? And like,
yeah,
kind of that, should I be pursuing this kind of thing? And it was through his school he was able to get connected to Howard Shore.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And like in a mentor-mentee way?
Yeah, exactly.
Holy shit, that's awesome.
I know. So I was like, okay, me and this guy, Kevin Robles, we're going to click right away.
Sure.
And it was amazing. The music is so, so good. You know how when you're doing a project for a long time, there comes a point where you're like, I hate it.
Yes, I am keenly aware of that moment. And it comes probably after you've seen it for like the 50th time.
Yes.
You're like, I hate this. This
sucks.
Like,
why did I do this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's going to like this.
Yeah.
This is horrible.
Yeah.
So I got to that point, and then the final score, we were working with Kevin for a while, and the final score was in, and we watched it, and I was like, wow, okay, it's good.
You gave me my movie back.
Yeah, you gave me my movie back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an amazing feeling. I went through this with Alex. Ace is my editor.
Yeah.
And we did our second project together. It was called Four Pins, and we were going through the editing, and it got to a point where we were like ready to release it. And I called him, and I called my other producer. I'm like, guys, like, no, this all needs to be redone. This is, it sucks. Like, we can't put this out. And they both agreed. They're like, all right, let's entertain this. And they both came to me and they're like, you have 48 hours. Like, that's it. We have one editing session. And if you can't figure it the fuck out, we're just releasing it. And by the end of it, I was like, you know what, guys, this is pretty good as is. But it was the music that really did it. We ended up getting a bunch of really talented musicians led by Daniel Hill. And they created like this beautiful soundscape, awesome. All original kind of like jazz blues music. And as soon as I saw that in the project, I was like, God damn, they gave me my movie back.
Yeah.
It's awesome when it all comes together that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny how that works. Shawn and I were watching Hans Zimmer talk about the Dune 2 soundtrack.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I could listen to this guy talk like all day.
Yeah.
I
feel like he's doing a tour right now. Didn't I just see something?
Oh my gosh.
I think he's doing like a live concert series.
Oh, I love that.
No, that's what it was. I was just I was talking to the bartender at this restaurant that I go to, and she just saw him live.
Oh my god.
I think it was Hans Zimmer.
Oh, I would
She bought
die.
tickets, and like he does all of his like best hits from all of his movies.
Wow.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And even him, he was talking in the video about how he never feels like he's gotten it just right. You know, and he was talking about even the Lion King, this specific scene where he was like, it doesn't work, and he's so critical of it, but he won an Oscar, you know, and it's just funny how even a guy like him, it's like, no, it's not right. It's not perfect.
Well, I feel like that's how you get better.
Yeah. Yeah, and he said he's, you know, constantly learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Always looking at, you know, what better thing can you do moving forward? That I feel like that's a trap, is to linger on that one thing and not let it go.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say? I mean, do you get what I'm like? I feel like there's a lot of people out there. I certainly have been caught in that, where it's like, well, this is the thing. There's only this. If we don't perfect this, you know, there's no way we can move on to the next thing. It's like, no, you just kind of got to put in the reps. You just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, even with Sweet Freedom, I'm really proud of what we were able to pull off, but there's so many things that I'm like, oh, you know, it kills me. I wish I could rewrite it and reshoot it. I'm like, why did I make that decision? And, you know, it's like kind of the punishment for continuing to get better. It's just also, you can never make anything perfect. There's always going to be those things that you're like, it drives me insane. Yeah.
What's the plan for Sweet Freedom? Are you doing the festival route?
Yeah. So back to festivals.
Is it currently in the festival circuit, or you still have some tinkering to do?
Yeah. So actually just last night we submitted to our first.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That must feel like a weight off your shoulder. And also an anticipation of weights to come.
Yeah, exactly. And it was such it was so on brand for me, because I've put together this whole film festival strategy with high prestige, mid prestige, lower prestige, and, you know, the different ways that it fits and the event dates and all of this stuff in a big spreadsheet. And then the deadline for this one festival that we absolutely have to enter, it's in Boston. And the deadline was midnight, and I literally submitted at 11:59.
Hell yeah.
Like, this is so on brand for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why I do this to myself.
It happens to the best of us.
You know?
I totally get it. So you love spreadsheets?
I do. I guess I do.
I love a good spreadsheet too, for what it's worth.
Your brain
organized.
in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, we've been talking this whole time, and I didn't even ask. So you said you went to college. Did you go to film school? Like, did you go to school knowing that you wanted to be a filmmaker, or like what's your kind of trajectory there?
Yeah, I did. So I went to the University of Rhode Island, and did you go to URI?
I went to URI.
Wait, when did you graduate URI?
2014.
2014. Okay.
When did you graduate?
I'm doing mental math. So I graduated in 2021.
Okay. So I got a few years on you then.
Yeah, a little bit. But there's definitely, I feel like I've seen your face around your eye or something. Like there's definitely.
It's possible. I'm good buddies with Keith Brown. Did you?
Oh, Keith. Yeah. I love Keith.
Yeah, Keith's the man. I was actually just texting him the other day. I'm working on a feature film that shoots on Tuesday, and we need production assistants. So I was looking to see if he could help me out.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And then I ran into him at the Cox cable store. Yeah, I keep bumping into him all over the place.
Yeah, he's everywhere. Oh, I love Keith.
So you went to URI for film. Actually, if you graduated in 2021, you probably got a much better deal than I did, because when I was there, no, seriously, when I was there, they were, the film school at URI was still trying to figure out what the fuck it wanted to be.
Yeah.
Seriously, when I was there, it was mainly focused on, and this is no knock on Keith, I think that Keith was the one kind of really pushing hard for the school to get its shit together.
Yeah.
But when I was there, it was a lot of film theory, it was a lot of film history, and it was very little hands-on work. You know,
Gotcha.
they were still building their inventory as far as equipment. Like the editing lab wasn't all that great. It was very limited with what they could provide you, and the
Wow.
production courses as well. Again, it was really led by Keith. There weren't a lot of courses available to us, but I went back to URI recently. I forget why I was there, but I got a tour of their new facility. They have a whole building now just dedicated to filmmaking. Did you get to experience that when you were there? Like,
A little bit.
yeah, the building by the quad?
Yes, I'm trying to remember the name of it.
I don't remember it either, but
I don't
I
know.
think we're on the same page with that building.
Yeah.
So that was there when
yeah.
you were there.
So the first floor was
Yeah.
all done, and it was, they had been saying it since I started my freshman year that the second floor was going to be opening soon.
Yep.
And so they opened right after I graduated.
Classic.
Yes. Classic. But I still I really appreciated the amount of hands-on work that you could get yourself into, and the equipment and everything was just so awesome. And I had toured other schools, and that was something that I was asking those kind of like harder questions of, okay, let me look at your equipment, and I can't touch that until I'm a junior. You know, I
Does
came
make
from
sense.
I came from Fairhaven High School where we were working with Black Magics as freshmen, and it's like it's Fairhaven, you know. But it's like,
Wait, really?
yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh,
But
cool.
it's because our teacher, and it's not like this big fancy school or anything. It's just that our teacher worked in the industry as a journalist, and he was kind of like the Keith of Fairhaven, where it's like, no, I want to get these kids handling equipment right away and trusting them and just teaching. So
It's important.
Yeah.
I mean, media literacy in general, I think, is important. But I think the younger you are, kind of exposed to media literacy is important. I had a great
Yeah.
teacher in high school who like helped us make sense of movies, and it's like she was the first one where I remember. She was doing like trivia questions, and she was like, it was like, she was like, okay, what's the final song in Fight Club? And I knew it. It was Where Is My Mind? But then she got us into a discussion about, okay, why is that song powerful? What does that do to the scene? Like, what is the rest of the soundtrack in that movie doing? And why does this song make sense for this moment? So she was kind of getting us to think critically about movies, yes, but media in general. It's like, okay, what, even if you're looking at a commercial, decode this commercial. What is this doing, and how is it effective? Like, you watch a Coca-Cola commercial, like, what are these shots signifying? Blah, 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 blah. And I know that sounds
Yes.
like pretentious high art bullshit, but
No.
in a landscape that's saturated with media, I think it's important to be able to look at what you're receiving critically and be able to kind of sort through the bullshit.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, it's so true. I love learning that kind of stuff in high school too, and like color theory, and yeah, just trusting kids too, that they're gonna, be able to take in all of that, and
Arming them with the equipment to do that,
Exactly. Yeah.
Black Magics in high school.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous when you say it out loud, but it's like, then I'm going to these colleges and it's like, oh no, you can't handle, until you're a junior. I'm
But
like,
you got a
"What?"
good feeling at URI.
Yeah, URI was great. I loved, sometimes I'm independent to a fault, and it's like, I just want to get started. Like, let me just do
Yeah.
it, So URI was great.
Did you ever work with like the Bolex crank cameras and like 16 millimeter film? Do you have any experience with any of
No.
that?
No, and I honestly, that's one of my regrets, is I never took the working with actual film.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, it was embarrassing for me.
Embarrassing?
Yeah,
Why?
because like, all of my footage, like, I don't know what I was doing. It all came out underexposed. And like, you get so excited going to like, oh, they've got my footage and we're going to screen it like for everybody in the class. I'm like, I don't think I did it right.
It's part of the process.
No, but it's a good learning experience.
Yeah.
I later went on to, work with film in school, and the results were much better.
That's awesome. That's good.
So your first festival you submitted to, are you mentally prepared for what's probably going to be a year and a half of,
No.
going through the festival circuit?
I'm not prepared now.
No.
No, there's about 30 on the list that we're submitting to, so we'll see what we get into. But oh yeah, I'm not ready. I am not ready.
Well, I'm excited to see the damn project. You got to send it to me. The
I
trailer
will.
looks fucking phenomenal, and
I will,
everything that you
thank
described,
you.
it sounds like a really great story.
Yeah, yeah, it taught me and I think the whole team so much. It was, like you said, getting the reps in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, like, all of the do not do's, like animals, children, period piece, multiple locations. It's like, yeah, we just did everything that you're not supposed to when you want to keep it simple.
I know. I was watching the trailer. I'm like, this seems like a lot, but like in a really good, like it looks polished, but I was like, she's dealing with horses and like all of these costumes.
Yeah.
Must have been a hell of a journey.
It was a hell of a journey.
Did you have a big crew on that one?
Yeah, it was I think like how many crew do we have? Like I think between 20 and 30. Yeah, so it was decent. It was the first time that there were people on our crew that I didn't even know their name until, they're on set. It was a very weird feeling. As an indie filmmaker, it's all your friends and family for so long. And then you get to a point where it's like, okay, like, hi, nice to meet you.
I'm directing.
I'm the director. It's very, very weird. And, a lot of people older than me too. And I'm like, oh, I just, I want to seem like I know what I'm doing too. And yeah, it was a lot. Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to any young filmmakers out there, when you finally get into that position? Is there anything that your experiences taught you?
Oh, man.
About like how to be confident as a director?
It's really in your prep work. Something that, so yeah, it's been a journey. Every project you learn something new and there's different levels of confidence. I think one of the most confident I've ever been was on To Dusk I'll Return. But with the situation, it was, it was a small crew. We were still dealing with COVID, so it was very minimal, one location, a few actors, and I had prepped the hell out of it. Like I knew what angle we were going to get where and why we were framing it that way and just everything and what it meant, like all the artsy fartsy stuff. And for Sweet Freedom, if I could go back, I mean, there was just no time ever in prep because it was so much, dealing with all these locations and the fundraising and horses and period costume. And I had a producer team, but it really needed all of us working so hard. And I realized after day 2 of filming, I was like, oh my God, I didn't really do a lot of director prep.
How so?
So we'd had a few actor rehearsals over Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that. And I feel very confident in that area because I come from an acting background. I take acting classes continually to be in that language of speaking to actors. But then when it came to being on set, there was just certain things like adding life to a scene, like background stuff and like, okay, these people should be doing this and this shot's not going to work out, so now we have to pivot and do something else. I didn't really do a lot of prep work for that, so there was moments where, we've got this exterior street scene and we had this beautiful idea, but it's not going to work because of the traffic patterns and we weren't able to block off the street the way that we could and just things that we were like, oh crap, we don't really have a plan B. So now we're thinking on the fly and it worked out. So maybe that is from having the practice of figuring things out last second. But yeah, I think just like don't sacrifice your director prep. Realize that there's a very big difference between your producer prep and pre-production and your director prep too. Yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah, seriously. Do you like working with actors? I mean, as an actor yourself, I mean, is it a very, do you have a shorthand or?
Yeah, I think I love working with actors and I love figuring out how, they're all different and just like how to get into one actor's head versus another, and just the different approaches. It's so fun. Yeah. Do you?
I like working with actors quite a bit.
Yeah.
I do. I'll be excited to work with more someday, somehow.
Yeah.
Now, here's another question that I like to ask everybody. Do you consider yourself, in terms of takes, are you Clint Eastwood or are you Stanley Kubrick?
Yeah, I feel like you should ask the rest of my crew that. I think I'm more of Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
1 or 2 takes, you're good?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes it's like, okay, or there's too many. I'm like going to. Like,
I think I just saw Shawn go. It depends.
It depends. It depends. Yeah, it really depends.
Sure.
Yeah. I think I'm like very hyper too, so I get excited to move on to the next thing. But sometimes I'll get like fixated on something, and I'm like, okay, now let's do another one of the. I don't know.
So what's your take on rehearsals then with actors? Do you rehearse on camera, or do you spend extensive time with them prior to rolling camera?
Yeah, I think for me, for rehearsals, the really valuable stuff is before set, before the madness is around you and there's the pressure and all of that. Just getting to know the actors and what makes them tick and how they can get into a certain character's headspace. For example, Frederick Douglass is in Sweet Freedom as a young man in his 20s, and the actor that we were working with, Mamadou Touré, it was difficult for him at first to get into, okay, I'm going to play Frederick Douglass. It's this larger-than-life person who, because he's so famed, the personhood, it can be difficult when you're like, okay, I'm going to become this person. And so it was just really just getting to know them as friends and like, what's something in your life where you feel like you got a second chance, and getting into that and then connecting that directly to the words that he's speaking as Frederick Douglass, talking about his second chance in life. So that's I think the meat of it. And then once we're on set, we'll go through the motions just for camera. But I always tell them, like, no emotion. Like, we're going to do it and just read it flat.
Why do you do that?
Because I think that, like, having them hold on to the energy until we're ready to go is very powerful, because then it spills out of them. Instead of, kind of wasting the emotional energy before we're even filming.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then sometimes the first take will be too much, and that's totally fine. And, it's just like, okay, that's the starting point, and now we're going to play, and it's like Play-Doh, like we're going to shape it in different ways. And, that all has to be on film. Like, I don't want to do that in
if
a
we're not
rehearsal.
rolling.
Yeah, if we're not rolling. Exactly. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that.
It's the most fun part. It's like, that's why I love making movies, is that part is really fun.
Well, you're a hell of a director.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to have been able to talk to you and receive all your work. Send me Sweet Freedom, please.
Yeah, I will.
Watch the whole thing. It sounds like an awesome story.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If anybody is watching this and they want to find your work, where would you send them?
Yeah, I guess the easiest place would be my website, which is www.alyssabotelho.net. .com was taken, so we're on .net.
Yeah, but .net gives you a whole bump up. It's I don't know .com. No, nobody's doing the .com anymore.
Yeah, that's so last year. .net's got flair.
Hell yeah. Well, listen, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Everybody, go check out the very talented Alyssa Botelho. All right, guys, catch you on the next one. All right, bye.
Bye.